Hello everyone and welcome to the video, and today I'm going to be going over the top 5 best close range weapons in Apex Legends Season 8. So I'm going to make a little series out of this I'm going to be doing the top 5 best close range weapons, the top 5 long range weapons, and then the top 5 legends all for this season. So one thing I want to mention is that in terms of having a great loadout, you're definitely going to want to have one close range weapon and one long range weapon. I just thought it was a lot easier to split them up, so you're going to have to see the next video if you want to get a nice loadout that's going to be effective at all ranges and that you could really maximize your potential with. So with that being said, let's get right into the video. I'm not going to put these in any specific order just because I feel like a lot of it is just personal preference. There's some guns that are just obviously clear cut better than others, but at the same time, if you don't like one of these guns on the list, it's probably better to just not use it, because if you use it wrong, it's not going to be very effective for you. But the first weapon on the list for me is definitely my personal favorite, and it is the EVA 8. So in my opinion, the EVA 8 is probably the best close range weapon in the game. I feel like whenever you're close range with somebody and you hit them for like 64 body shot or even higher sometimes, it's insane. You're probably never going to lose a 1 with the EVA 8 if you're like pretty close range, just because of how consistent the damage is. But you have to be able to hit your shots, and that's why it's a little bit I feel like a lot of people don't like it because maybe they might hit 7s or 11, but either way, if you can hit those direct body shots, I like to use a red dot on it. It helps me with my accuracy a little bit, but if you can land those body shots consistently with how fast it shoots with a purple bolt, you're going to see insane results with it, because it rips down people, I feel like, faster than any other weapon in the game. And it's incredibly consistent, and it's honestly really good for squad wipes as well. So overall, it's definitely my favorite close range weapon to use. Next up on the list, we have the Flatline. The Flatline is a very consistent weapon overall. It has a lot of ammo, so when someone gets close range, you're going to melt them, as well as the high damage numbers. I think it's around 20 a body shot, which is insane. 30 rounds in a purple mag, so it does a lot of damage with a lot of ammo. So it's very good. It's very consistent for wiping squads as well. If you need to wipe a team, you have enough ammo for it close range. One tip I have for the Flatline, a lot of people might not be using it correctly. In my opinion, I use the Flatline hip fire only. I will not aim with the Flatline. I'll usually pair it with an R301 or something, and I will just hip fire with the Flatline when they get close. But it has to be super close range, because if you're any farther away than maybe 10 feet from the dude, you're probably not going to be hitting as many shots as you could. I like to really pair it with Octane as well, just because the stim kind of tightens the spread of the hip fire, and you can get in people's faces since you're stimmed. So I think the hip fire on the Flatline makes it an amazing weapon close range. And your strafe, you can crouch strafe with it as well if you're not aiming. So I think that the Flatline is definitely one of the best weapons in the game close range that you can use. Next weapon on this list is the Volt. So the Volt is a really good close range weapon, as well as medium range. You can kind of get some shots in medium range as well, since there's good accuracy, and the recoil is pretty easy to control. So the Volt is probably one of the most reliable weapons in the game, just because I feel like it can do pretty much anything. But close range, the Volt is amazing because you get the SMG strafe even when you're aimed in. There's a good amount of ammo in the mag, especially with the purple mag, and the damage numbers are pretty high, as well as the fire rate is pretty fast. So the Volt is overall an amazing weapon. Definitely one of the better close range weapons in the game, in my opinion, and you should definitely be using it if you're not already, just because of how good the Volt is at close to medium range. So the next weapon on this list is the R99, and I feel like I'm only putting this on the list because it's always been good, and if you're good with it and you're really consistent with the recoil control, you can really make it do some amazing things. But at the same time, it's very hard to use sometimes. I feel like it's outclassed a lot of the times by things like the EVA or the Volt, just because you have to be almost flawless with the R9 every time for it to be as effective as it could be, or even as effective as other weapons in general. And that's why I kind of struggled to put it on this list, but I will put it on this list. It's probably going to be replacing the Havoc. So we're going to give the honorable mention spot to the Havoc Turbocharged. Personally, I think the Havoc Turbocharged is better than the R9, but I don't know, maybe because the R9 you could actually aim down sights with, I would put it on this list. But if you guys haven't tried Havoc Turbocharger close range hipfire, it's the same concept as the Flatline, and it's incredible with very high damage. But let's get back to the R9. It's very fast shooting. Obviously, it has a fire rate that is insanely high. The damage is pretty bad. Honestly, it deserves a buff. But either way, since the fire rate's so good, you could actually mow people down incredibly fast. The only problem with the R9 is that even with a purple mag, you pretty much can't kill a Gibby with their arm shield if they have a red evo, so that's a little bit annoying, and that's a detail that makes me not really like the gun as much since I run into gibbies regularly. But overall, if you can hit your shots with the R9, it's an incredible close range weapon. The hip fire spread is also pretty good as well, so it's pretty consistent close range as long as you are consistent with the gun itself. So the final weapon on this list is the Mastiff. This is another weapon that's kind of hit or miss. It's really good for bubble fights, especially if you have a Gibby on your team or if you are Gibby himself. Using the Mastiff, poking out of bubbles, poking out of doorways is very effective. The Mastiff is more of a weapon that you're going to need to know how to use it, because I feel like if you just, go face to face with somebody, the Mastiff, that's not really where the Mastiff shines. But if you can use cover to kind of peek in and out of, that's just the best way of using the Mastiff. If you're not using the Mastiff like that, you're not going to see, like, as good of results as you would doing that. But overall, the Mastiff is a solid weapon. I know a lot of people complain about getting like 9s and 11s, same thing with the EVA. But I use, like I said before, with the EVA, I use a red dot on all my shotguns just because I feel like it helps me get the dot center of mass. And if you can get the dot center of mass, you're going to see massive body shots all the time. You're only going to see big numbers as long as you can land that shot. So Mastiff is really good because it does really high damage, and you can potentially not even get hit that much even if they're spraying something like a Volt. If you play cover right with a Mastiff, you're probably always going to win, which makes the Mastiff an amazing weapon close range. So that's pretty much my list. I'm going to go over it one more time. You have the EVA 8, the Flatline, the Volt, the R99, and the Mastiff, with the honorable mention of a Havoc turbocharged. All amazing weapons, all weapons you should be using close range. Honestly, with all these weapons in the game and how powerful these 5 or 6 weapons are, I honestly can't justify using any other weapon close range. The only other weapon I could maybe think of would be Mozambique hammer points, which are slept on, or like an R301 hipfire. Same thing with the Spitfire, but those are probably going to be in my long range list, so they do not count because they are, in my opinion, more suited to long range. So that's pretty much it for today's video. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time.